So this is about understanding what we do when we've got negatives essentially in an inequality. All right, the first way that you can solve this inequality is to move the x's onto the left-hand side. So you subtract the x from the 4x. Now that will give you 3x there. You would then subtract the 6 from the 21, which gives you 15. And then divide by 3, which gives you x is less than or equal to 5. Okay, now that is the most conventional way of doing this. However, you could get all the x's onto the other side. So what you could do here is you could subtract the 4x, which would leave you with negative 3x here. And then subtract the 21, which would give you negative 15. Now, when you divide both sides by negative 3 here, you would end up with 5 is less than or equal to x. But that doesn't make sense because those two statements contradict each other. You can't be both x is less than or equal to 5 and x is greater than or equal to 5. They're not the same solution. You should get the same solution. Now, the reason this works is because of this part here, this transition here, when you're dividing by -3. Now, we need to be really careful because when you're working with equations, the idea of dividing by -3 is fine. But because we're working with inequalities here, we can't actually do that. And what you're doing when you're dividing by -3, if we actually break that down, what you're doing when you're doing that is, technically, you're not actually dividing by the negative. You are swapping the sides that the two terms are on. So what I mean by that is that actually what you're doing here is, yes, you're dividing by 3, but before you do that, you need to deal with the negative part, which means you should actually be moving the 3x over there and then moving the 15 over here. And then you're back into the same scenario as you had here. Now, what you will hear a lot of times and what you will see on a lot of videos is that if you want to divide by a negative number, so if you get down to this point and you want to divide both sides by a negative number, you must swap the sign. Okay, you must swap the inequality sign. So what that looks like is that if you divide that by -3, you would get 5. Divide that by -3, you get x. But because we've divided by a negative number there, you have to swap the signs. And now your solution is actually the same as this one. Okay, yes, it's the other way around, but actually when you read it, it has the same value. X is less than or equal to 5, x is less than or equal to 5. Okay, so the rule there really is, if you are going to divide by a negative, you must swap the inequality sign round if you're going to do that. Alternatively, you just move things onto the other side, and then you get to something like that, and you can divide by a positive number. Okay, and when you divide by a positive number, the inequality is fine. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Let me know if not. All right, thanks.